What's going on YouTube? DG Whips back again with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about a very common question. What are the benefits to a rear mount turbo setup versus a traditional like top mount setup, or just one that's in the engine bay, you know, where it's supposed to be usually? There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand. It's still kind of a taboo thing. It's very foreign. Not a lot of people do it except for really bold people like me, I guess. So I'm gonna go over just things that are different, things that are easier, things that are harder, pros and cons, you know, all of the like. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. Okay, so you got your turbo all the way back here. What are the pros and what are the cons? So I'll go ahead and start with the cons. I'll start with some of the negatives that do make this maybe a little more difficult than a traditional mount setup. So one thing is, because you cannot gravity feed back to the engine, to the oil pan, because you're so far away, obviously you are going to have to mechanically or electronically, whatever, pump the oil back to the engine. So that's what I have right here, a scavenge pump. You're gonna need a scavenge pump of some sort. You can use anything that would, like, you could technically probably try to hook up a fuel pump or something that might work, but the scavenge pump already has the AN fittings on it and it's a little easier. And this was actually a pretty cheap one. It is noisy, but it does work. So you're gonna have to spend extra money for that. That is not something you normally would have to have on a traditional like top mount turbo or something like that. You're also gonna have to run very long oil lines and coolant lines if you're gonna run coolant. I'm not running coolant to my turbo. I don't think it really needs it, especially because I'm getting air cooled already and I'm not in the engine bay. So there's two ways to feed oil to your turbo. You're gonna have to either do a full standalone system where you have the pump, the lines, and then you have like a tank in your trunk or something that has oil or whatever you want. I think you can even run like transmission oil or whatever you'd want to cool the turbo with, because it's completely its own system. And you also have to do an oil cooler and all that, which if you know how to fabricate and everything, that won't be too bad. But if you can't fabricate, maybe you can just get like a fuel cell or something that can hold like probably like 2 or 3 quarts of oil or something. I did not want to do this. That sounded like a lot, and it's not terribly expensive if you know what you're doing, but a full standalone system probably would be a little better. Nothing wrong with tapping into your engine and getting oil feed from there. And it's kind of the same thing. It's just things got to come all the way back to the turbo. So oil feed comes from the oil filter housing all the way to the top of the turbo, and the oil drain to the scavenge pump, and then all the way to my oil cooler, actually back to the front of the car. So plenty of line of stainless steel braided line you're gonna need. Now obviously you're gonna need really long intercooler piping. Now you can do universal piping and make it work. As you can see, I have mine hangs really low and I need to fix that because I don't really like that. But yeah, there's a lot of piping you're gonna need, and it's better if you fabricate this and have it custom fit, because that way you don't have an issue like I have where mine hangs low. I could not go over the sway bar right there because it was way too close to the axle, and it definitely would have hit if the pipe flexed like at all. So cut it and just do silicone tubing there or something. That way if it hits it, it'll be fine, but I gotta do some fine tuning under here. So yeah, my intercooler piping goes all the way from underneath the car through this control arm and stuff right here. Then it comes to the intercooler, then finally back up to the throttle body inside the car. Doing this with universal like couplers and tubings was a little bit of a pain. It took me like a whole like day and a half to really figure out my route, and it's still not perfect. So I would recommend fabricating if you're going to go this route. But yeah, those two things, those are a big pain. Now let's go ahead and get to the big question. Does this lag? And for me, no, not really. The big thing with lag of any setup is having too big of a turbo, that's number one, and then having too big of piping and intercooler. So if you have too big of piping and intercooler and too big of a turbo, it just has to fill so much cubic volume with air, and of course it's gonna lag if you do that, right? And then if the turbo is big, then yeah, it's gonna take forever to spool up. It's a big turbo. So if you go a little smaller in the turbo size, I even think my turbo is a little too big for my setup, honestly, and people have been telling me that. Honestly, it still spools fine. I can show you a clip right now. People think the lag is just unbearable. Like, they just assume you're gonna lag, like you're gonna have crazy lag. In my experience, you honestly would not know. you could get in the car and drive it and not know it's a rear mount turbo setup if you didn't know. It's not that bad. You just do your research. I did 2.5-inch piping. I'm not running like really big boosts, so that's more than enough for me. My intercooler is not very big at all, as you can see. I kind of do want to upgrade intercooler size just a little bit, but it's good enough for now. I'm getting a lot of air cooling from the piping underneath anyway. But yeah, no, it spools up fine, builds boost fine. Only thing is it doesn't really boost when I'm not under load, which that's kind of normal for aftermarket turbo setups anyway. But yeah, I really don't have a big issue with lag, to be honest with you guys. Mine spools up at about like 3.8K, 4K-ish, hit full boost and no problem. So, and even if it did, lag isn't even that bad anyway. Lag is kind of just more exciting, honestly. But yeah, if you're worried about lag, about rear mount turbo setup, I really wouldn't worry about it. Just don't go too big on a turbo and you're gonna be more than fine. And honestly, I really can't think of any other cons to my setup besides what I just said. Is just figuring out the intercooler piping and lines and everything, and having everything go back in front of the car, wires, piping, lines. Other than that, everything else would probably be around the same difficulty, and I don't really have any other like cons with my setup. It's just the turbo is just further away. That's literally it. So what are the pros to doing a setup like this? So this is pretty easy to do DIY. I did everything myself besides the exhaust portion of the car. The exhaust I have fully fabricated. I had it fabricated at Best Muffler Shop out here in Vegas. They did a really good job. I even had them put a little resonator after the turbo. That way it can be a little more quiet and a little more smooth. It doesn't do a lot, but they did a really good job. They also made a custom bracket right here to really support the weight of the turbo and everything. So shout out to them. Other than that, I did everything myself. I ordered all my parts individually. Did it all in my garage with pretty simple tools and just a little bit of knowledge and research, and I was able to do it myself. It did take me all summer to get it 100% right, but now that everything's right, it's been reliable, and I've been boosted for about a month now, and I've had no issues. Surprisingly, I had no issues with the car. I've actually dailied it a little bit. I've taken it to work and back, car meets, getting on it. Starts right up every time, no issues. So I'm only running 5 pounds of boost right now. I'm gonna keep it that way until I upgrade my tires, which I'm gonna do very soon. But yeah, it's been pretty reliable. A really big con is that you're gonna get a lot of cooling to the turbo, like I said before, underneath and your piping. So you're not gonna heat soak in the engine bay with the turbo sitting there, because as you know, a turbo produces a lot of heat. And if it's in the engine bay, it's gonna really heat soak when you really get on the car. So you don't have to worry about that. It's ease of maintenance. A lot of times if you have the turbos in a really congested engine bay, it's really hard to get to them and maintenance them and remove them and do all that kind of stuff. With the turbo being back here, all I gotta do is jack the car up, and it is super easy to service. Super easy to take off, remove, all that, and it's really easy to get to. Someone could probably see it and jack the car up and steal it from me, and I could be screwed. It's actually that easy to reach. So, and another big pro is this cool factor. When you're behind me in a car, you can see it, right? Which is pretty crazy, and that kind of looks intimidating to other people. And that just looks sick, like seeing the turbo right there. It's just a cool factor. I get a lot of questions about it. People are really surprised at car meets whenever I take this car out, and they have a lot of questions for me, which I'm always more than happy to answer. But it's definitely a neck breaker for sure once you know the turbo is all the way in the back. Some people have never heard of it. People didn't even know that was possible. And it's just a really cool, unique factor. Everyone always gets the Rev 9 kit or the basic turbo kits for this car. And I wanted to just do my own thing and be a little special. I'm pretty sure there's no rear mount turbo automatic G35 like elsewhere. So definitely got a unique car right here. It's also pretty cheap to do. I did everything myself with just parts, around $2,600. I think that included the custom fabrication of the exhaust. So you actually can do this relatively cheap. And if you know how to fabricate, you can do it even cheaper. Now with the tune and everything, it cost me around $3,800 with the tune and everything. I'm gonna have to like really calculate everything again, but I think the total money I spent to get this where it's at right now is like between $3,600, $3,800 or something. So not bad at all. So that's actually relatively budget friendly. Some kits go for way more than that, $5 grand, $8 grand, and then that's not even including install and everything. I obviously did most of the install myself, so I didn't have to worry about that. But this thing is lots of fun. I love driving it. I always have a smile on my face every time I drive it. I just love working on this thing. I love driving it. I love this car, and I do plan on keeping the G forever. whatever happens, if it blows up or whatever, this is the G, bro. Like, this is my favorite. I don't know why. I just have such a big attachment to this car. It's definitely, probably because I've had it the longest out of all the cars I've ever had. I've had this car for almost 4 years, and she's been real good to me. So I'm on 170,000 miles, and I'm boosted, and it's still running like a champ, and it's auto. Like, come on. And that is why I'm pretty obsessed with VQs. But I am getting in a Boxer engine slowly. I have 2 Subis. I mean, that one's kind of down bad. That's why I haven't even moved it in like weeks. By the way, you guys think I should do a wide body on this? I think it would look really good on this car. Comment down below if I should wide body the WRX. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Besides the distance that the turbo is from the engine, a lot of it is very similar and the same concept. If you know how to turbo a car, you can do this. It's not that much different, just things are a little longer and like further away. That's kind of it. And it's relatively budget friendly. You can do this yourself. As you can see, I did it myself. It's not perfect. I do need to touch up some things. I do have a couple like leaks still. Do need to adjust the way some things fit and everything, but everything else, I mean, everything's working and everything is spooling great. I don't even have a check engine light or anything, so car is good. Yeah, comment down below if you have any other questions on the rear mount turbo setup. Right now, I'm only making like 320 wheel, give or take. I'm only on 5 pounds. I am going to be turning up the boost once I get some tires that are actually gonna fully hook, because I am spinning tires pretty bad. Once they're warmed up, it's not too bad, but the weather's getting colder and everything, and like first, second gear, even third gear, I'm kind of just spinning tires, which it's kind of fun, but it's also not. It's really sketch, and I don't even want to let anyone else drive it at all when it's like that. So gonna get some wider tires, some better performance tires. I'm thinking Indy 500s or maybe even R888 just for the back, and then whatever else on the front. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Hope you guys really enjoyed the content. Comment down again below if you have any questions on doing a rear mount turbo setup, the car, how it's running, whatever questions you may have. Also, you can DM me on Instagram at DGWhip. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys again so much for watching. I will see you guys next time.